Hi guys, welcome back to today's class. I remained lesson Amarachi. The last time we discussed about typography and colors, right? That is fonts and colors. So today we'll be talking about shapes and logos. So the goal for today is to help you guys understand the power of shapes in design, to explore how shapes are used in logos, to practice creating with shapes through fun design activities. So today we are going to have a lot of fun today designing with shapes, right? So understanding the psychology of shape in design is the first thing we are going to talk about today, right? So we have understood the psychology behind color, the psychology behind fonts in designs. So shapes are one of the most basic building blocks of design. Every design you see, whether it's a logo, poster, website, or cartoon, uses shapes in some ways. Any design that you see, be it a logo, a poster, a flyer, a website design, any design that you see are basically designs using shapes, right? Shapes are like the building blocks of designs. So shapes are not just for drawing. They make us feel things. Designers use shapes to organize, decorate, and communicate ideas visually. Shapes help guide the eyes, create moods, build structure, and even tell a story, right? So shapes help tell a story about your design, right? Now let's look at the different shapes, right, and what they mean. First, we have the circles and the oval shapes, right? So circular shape means unity, community, friendship, stability, and feminine, right? So that's what the circle shapes or oval shapes means, right? The psychology behind this circle shape, which means how does it make us feel? Whenever we hear psychology, just know that what it basically means is that how does this shape makes us feel, like, right? When you see this shape, what does it tell you, right? So circle feels safe, peaceful, because they have no corners. They look friendly and welcoming. Circle is just like this. It doesn't have any sharp edges like our rectangles or our square. So because it doesn't have any sharp edge, it's just so soft and round, right? It makes us feel safe, right? Makes us feel friendly, right? Care, right? So brands that use this shape are brands that want to show care, support, or community. Those are brands that use this shape. Example, have the Nivea, right? So if you know the Nivea logo, our Nivea cream, if you have seen the Nivea logo before, which we have here for those who have not seen it, right? So Nivea is all about showing care for our skin, right? Support. Nivea wants to tell us, right, that they care about our skin, and that's why they incorporated the circle shape in their logo, right? So the next shape we'll be looking at is the triangle shapes, right? Triangle shapes means power, science, movement, and creativity, right? So how does this triangle shape, how does it make us feel? Triangle shapes are exciting. They can feel strong or even fast, depending on how they are placed, right? Brands that use this triangle shape are brands that want to look bold, strong, and smart. Example, we have the Reebok logo, sorry. So you see they incorporated the triangle shape in their logo, right? They use different shapes to give it a triangle look because they want to look bold, strong, and smart, right? So the next shape we have the square and the rectangle shape, right? So square and rectangle shapes mean strength, trust, balance, and order, right? So how does the square and rectangle shape, how does it make us feel? This shape feels solid and dependable. They don't move, they stand firm, right? These shapes are brands that use this shape are brands that want to look professional, smart, or serious. Example, I don't know if you guys have seen like the BB News. The BB News, this is how their logo looks like, right? They incorporated the square shape, right, in their logo because they want to look what? Serious and trustworthy, right? The next shape we are going to talk about are lines. So the first line we have the vertical lines right here. And what does this vertical line, what does it mean? It means strength, growth, progress, masculinity, etc. So how does this straight line, how does it make us feel? It makes us feel bold, confident, like as if we are standing tall, you know. Now, example, we have the Costco logo, right? It feels modern, connected, and innovative, right? So another line shade I have here is the horizontal line, which means calm, peace, community, rest, speed, right? And it makes us feel relaxing, smooth, and grounded, right? Where we can see this logo, example, we have the IBM logo, and it makes us feel bold, stable, and powerful. It tells you that the company is reliable and know what they are doing, right? The next shape we have abstract shapes. So abstract shapes are usually shapes made by mixing other shapes. They help a brand stand out and feels different. So abstract shapes are just different shapes, right, that are put together to form a design or a logo, right? Abstract shapes, how does it make us feel? It makes us feel unique, modern, and creative. And then the brands that usually use these abstract shapes to make a design or a logo are usually tech brands, fashion brands, and modern brands, right? Example, we have the Starbucks logo here. So basically, this is how an abstract shape looks like. They use like different types of shapes, right, to make a logo, right? Now we are done talking about shapes. So moving on, let's discuss about logos, right, and what they mean, right? We are done understanding the psychology behind shape. So when you see a logo or a design, you're able to say, oh, these people use a rectangle. Why? Because they want to portray this thing. These people use a circle design. Why do they use this design, right? You get to understand why people choose a particular shape, right, in their designs or logos, right? So now let's talk about logos, right, and their meanings. The first logo we have here is the glow logo, right? And what shape does this glow logo have? It has a circle shape, right? A circle shape and then a text on top of it, right? The circle represents community and connectivity, great for communication brand, right? So we say that circle makes us feel connectivity, right? So the next one we're going to talk about is the MTN logo, right? MTN logo, here they use two shapes, right, to make this logo. You can see we have an oval shape here, and then we have a square shape, right? The oval is inside the square shape, right? So this shape feels friendly and open with a strong yellow color to show energy, right? Remember we did psychology behind colors, right? And they said that yellow is all about energy. You understand? It makes us feel energetic, energy. So this is what they incorporated in their logo, right? Now the next logo we have is the Indomie logo. We all know Indomie now because I know you all eat Indomie, right? In this Indomie, right, the shape that they use here are wavy lines, right? Wavy lines. And then I don't know if I should call this a rectangle, but wavy lines, right? The wave gives it a fun and playful look, just like the food it represents, right? Most people that likes Indomie, right, are children, right? So they made it to be playful. Their logo looks playful, something that will attract children, right? So the next logo we have here is the Adidas logo, right? The Adidas logo, the shape that they use are triangles, right? 3 triangles. See, right? So 3 slant strips to make a triangle. Sorry, they didn't use a triangle, but then they use 3 slant strips to make a triangle. Their logo looks like a triangle, right? Adidas is a sports brand, so the triangle pointing upward shows strength, movement, and then reaching goals, right? Because we said that triangle actually means movement, strength. That is what we discussed in our triangle shape when we are getting to understand the psychology behind triangles. So they want to incorporate strength, movement, and reaching of goals, right, in their logo. So the next logo we have here is the Spotify logo, the music app. They use curved horizontal lines in a circle. That's You see a circle, we have a circle here, and then they use a horizontal curved lines to make their logos, right? Spotify is all about listening to music. So the curving line shows sound wave. You know, sound wave is usually like this. It's not usually straight, it's usually like this, right? So they use the horizontal curved lines to show sound waves, right? And the circle shape gives a feeling of community and togetherness. Like we discussed, that the circle shapes gives us a feeling of togetherness and connectivity, right? So that's what they incorporated in their logo. The next logo we have here is the Pepsi logo, right? So Pepsi, the shape that they use here are circle divided into curves, right? And colors. So basically this is just a circle shape, right? And then they use circles that they divided and made it curve, right? So Pepsi is a soft drink, like we all know, and this design gives you a feeling of fun, coolness, and youthfulness, right? So if you look at this shape now, it's the colors that they use are fun, like it's attractive, right? And they also use a circle shape to show togetherness and connectivity in their logo. Now we have seen shapes that are used in logo. Now let's have fun by using the same shapes to create our own cartoon character. So now we have seen how different brands, right, use shape to make their logos, their logo design, right? And then we have gotten to understand the psychology behind these shapes. So when we see a shape, we're able to tell, oh, this is what this brand is trying to tell us, right? This is what they're trying to make us feel. So now we are going to create a cartoon character, right, with shapes. So now I want you guys to guess which cartoon character that we are going to make using the shape, right? So as you guys are thinking about it, let me just show you guys, right? So we are going to make a Superman. I'm going to make this Superman right here using just shapes. Yeah, this Superman here was made using just shapes. Before we go to the practical aspect of it, where I get to show you guys how I made this Superman right here, now let's just get a rundown on the steps that was used to make this shape, to make this cartoon characters, our Superman. Steps to create a cartoon Superman using shapes. So we have the step 1 here is to open a new Canva design, and I'm sure that by now you guys know how to create a new document in your Canva, right? Well, then you can do this simply by just going to our Canva software or application and click on this tray bar menu that you're seeing right here, and you will see create a design. Then you choose any document size that you want to. For mine, I use a presentation document size, but you can use any document size that you want to use, right? The next step is for us to create the head of the Superman. And then how can we create the head of the Superman? So in this design, we're making use of the tools icon that is here are mostly shapes, right? Because we are using shapes to create the design. So the second step is to create the head. And how do we do this? We do this by going to tools, then we click on shape, then choose the circle head, resize it to a medium size, because when you click on the circle shape here, it will be big, right? So you resize it to how you want the head to be, right? And then you change the color of the head, so it will look like, you know, a skin color kind of. So the next step is for us to create the eyes. Once we're done creating the head, the next one is to create the eyes. How can we create the eyes? By simply going to two icons again, then we go and get our circle shape, then we resize it to a tiny circle like this and change the color to black, right? So we place it. Once we place it, we duplicate it again. I told you guys that how to duplicate is by simply pressing Ctrl D, and then it duplicates into 2. So we place them where they are meant to be, just like we did in this picture. So the next step for us is to create the mouse, right? So to create the mouse here, we go to tools, where this time we are not going to click on shapes, we're going to click on lines, right? And when you click on lines, you see 3 lines. Then we're going to choose the third one, which is the curve line. So once we choose it, then what we're going to do is to resize it to, right? So that it will be as small as this. And once we are done resizing it, we place it here, and then we have gotten our mouth, right? So the fifth step is for us to create the hair of the Superman, right? And we can simply do this by just going to tools, then we get another circle, a circle shape, right? And then we resize it. I'm still going to show you guys how this are done, right? But I just want to give you guys a rundown on how we got it, so that when we start the practical part, it won't confuse you guys that much, right? So you just get a circle, right? And then place it like this. Actually, 2 circles were used here. So you get another circle and make it into an oval shape. Then you rotate it. That is how we got this one. So in order to give us this, curve edge here, we got a triangle to resize it into a small shape, and then you put it here. That was how we got the Superman hairs. So the next one is for us to create the ear. So we can create the ear by simply going to tools, get our circle shape, and then duplicate it into 2 by pressing Ctrl D, and then we get 2 circle. Then we change it to the color of the face, right? And then just place it at the right and the left side of the face, right? So now that we are done making the head of our Superman, right, the next thing is for us to make the body. We are done making the head, so next thing for us to do is to make the body, which is step 7. To make the body, we go to tools, right, and then we get a triangle shape, and then we place it so it will be like this, right? Then we also go to tools again and get a rectangle shape, right, or a square, whichever you prefer, and then we place it like this, right, under the triangle to get this, right? The next step for us to do is to add the arms, right, the hands. So to do that, we go to tools again, click on shape, and then we choose this rectangle right arrow shape that we see right here, this particular one, right? So we choose it, and then we just rotate it a bit, and then place it right here, right? And then for this red glove, if I should call it glove, we just do this by getting a rectangle shape too, right? Then just resize it, and then you change the color to red, right? So after the arms, the next thing we are supposed to do is to add the pants, the Superman pants. So we can just do this by simply going to tools, click on shape, then we get our triangle, get the one that is the arrow is pointing down, right? Get this particular one, and then we place it right here, and then we have gotten our Superman pants. So the next step is for us to add the legs and the boots. And then for us to add the legs and the boots, we can just do this simply by going to rectangle and get our rectangle shape, right? Once you get it, then remember, in all these things you have to rotate the shapes that you got in order to get the position that you want them to be in. So we duplicate it into 2 and place the legs like this. Then again we get another rectangle shape and place it here and change the color to red. Then we get a triangle shape and place it under. That's how we got the boots, right? So the next step for us is for us to add the Superman cape, the cape. So we do this by simply going to tools, and then we choose this trapezoid shape, this particular one right here, right? And then we add it here, you get, and that's how we got the Superman cape. We change the color to red. So the next step is for us to add the Superman logo or symbol, right? The Superman logo or symbol. So we do this one by simply going to the elements and you search for Superman logo. Then you see this particular one, then you get it, resize it how you want it to be, and then place it on the chest. So here comes our Superman. So now let's get right into it. Let's go and design our Superman. So now we have gotten our document size. So this is my document size, and I know you guys know how to get your document size by now. So for those who doesn't know, you just come here, this trail bar that you are seeing right here. Sorry, the network is taking time. So you see they create a new design right here. Once you click it, you will see all those documents right here. So you just create any one that you want to use, right? So that's basically how to create your document size. So now that we have this, the first step, make the head, right? So you can do this by simply coming to our tools, right? Come to our tools, get our shape, circle shape, right? And then we scale it down like this, and then make it like a little bit an oval shape, right? Just a little bit. Then place it right here. Next thing for us is for us to change the color. So I get this color, right? So now we have made the head, right? So the next thing for us to do is to add the eyes, right? Which is the next step. So the next step for us is to add the eyes. We come to shape. We get the shape right here. Then we resize it. We scale it down to be just tiny like this, right? Then you come here and change the color to black. Change the color to black, and then we place it right here, right? Then okay, I think we should still scale it down a bit. So we duplicate this, Control D, and now we have two eyes, right? So now we place the eyes right here. All right, well then I feel like they are still too big, so why don't we scale them down a little? So I think now we have gotten our eyes, right? So the next step for us to get the mouth, so we come to line here, see lines, then we click on it. You see we get the curve mouth. So we come to this end. Once it touches this point here, it will change to cross. Look at its arrow now. Once it touches here, it changes to cross. So you pull this one here, right? You come here again, you pull this one, right? So this is what I meant by resizing it. This is basically what I meant by resizing it. So now we are trying to resize our mouth to get the mouth that we want to. So now that we have gotten the shape we want, the next thing for us to do is to rotate it. So this is where you rotate. Anytime you press an object or a shape or a layer, right? And I told you that these are all layers, right? You will see this icon here. This is used for rotating. So once I do like this, right, I'm rotating it. So I simply just put this right here. But then I want the mouth to be more thick. The line is just so small for me. So what do? I come to this page where it says line style. I click on it, right? You see the line weight is 4. So let's just increase it to 6 and see what it gives us. 6. Let's increase it again. So let's make it 8. So yes, I think I like this now, right? So the next step for us is to make the ear. So for us to make the ear, we just come to shape, get our circle shape, right? we resize it like this, right? Then just place it here. Then we press Ctrl D to duplicate this here. Perfect. So we delete this one and then we click on this, we press Ctrl D to duplicate them, and then we place this one right here. So now we have the ear. Right? Now we have the ear. So the next thing for us to do is to make the hair. So you can simply make the hair by coming to shapes, we click on our circle, and then we resize the circle like this. Then let's change the color to blue, right? So now we have this. So now let's send this blue oval shape to the back. Let it be at the back of the hair. So how can we do that? So we right click, we come to layer, we do send to the back, right? Send backwards. So now it's here. So what do? We bring it down here, increase it a bit, right? Hope you guys are seeing what I'm doing. So I think this is okay now. So we now come to these tools again, get our shape, get another circle, just like in the step, right? So this circle now make it into an oval shape. Also, we change the color to blue, right? So we rotate it, but then let's scale it down a little. Let's resize it. So we place it right here. We haven't yet gotten the how we want it to be. So we rotate it again, right? It's still not what I want. So I bring it down, and then I place it here. So let's get our triangle and see how it will look first. So we get our triangle, change the color to blue, right? So we scale it down, that's resizing, and then keep it here. Let's try and place this now and see if we have gotten what we want. Oh yeah, perfect. So now we have gotten our head. So I think we should try and scale this. So we have gotten our head right here, right? So the next thing for us to do is to add the arms. Now we come to shapes. So let's go and get the triangle, the body first before the arm. So let's get our triangle. This particular triangle is what we're going to need. So we'll click, and then see it's already here. So well, then we have to make it the way we want it to be. So we resize, and then the next step is for us to change the color to this, right? So now we have this. I think this is okay. So come to tools again, shape, and then we get a rectangle shape. So we place it like this. We change the color to blue. So we place it like this. Call this a bit. This like this. Right? So now we have this. Right? So our next step should now be to add the arms. Come to tools. We get that right, this shape right here. This is not the blue I'm using, so we change it to this. So we resize it to how we want it to be. So we rotate. We put it right here. Right? So it's like this now. Perfect. So now instead of us to come into shape and getting another shape, we just click on this, we press Ctrl D to duplicate it. So now there are two, right? So we just use this and rotate this one right here. And then do you know another reason why it's good to duplicate is that once you duplicate something, you tend to get the same shape and the same size. But then most of the time, just imagine that with the side, right, to get another shape. Maybe by the time we are done resizing it to the shape we want, right, it might not really be the same size. Okay, so that is why it is good most of the times to actually, resize, just duplicate instead of getting another new shape. So now we have gotten our arm. So let's add the red glove. We get another rectangle. Place it here. Then resize it to what we want. Change the color to red. Right? So we place it here and then we rotate. So I think one thing that is very, very important in this design, making our Superman, is that you do a lot of rotation, right? We rotate a lot. We do a lot of rotation, right? So we duplicate this also and then we rotate it. So we place. Voila! Now we have the arms. So the next thing for us to do is to make the pants. Right? So we just come to shapes again. We get this triangle, the one that is down, that is pointing down. So we click on it right here. And then we resize it like this. Right? So we change the color, change this color to red because our pants are red. Now we have this. So now we have this, right? So the next thing is for us to make the legs and the boot. So we do this by coming to shape. Then so we're going to use the same shape that we use for the arms. Okay, see it here. So we just bring it out here and then we size it what we want. We rotate it and then so we make it like this and rotate it again. Now, if you see, we need to send this particular shape to the back. Let's send it to the back. So we do that by right clicking, come to layer, and we send backward. So now it's at the back of our pants, right? So Okay, before we place this, I think we need to resize this. I think it's too big. So let's resize. And is it like this? So now let's place the leg. Nice. So the next thing for us to do is to do Control D, duplicate the legs, rotate this side, right? Send it also to the back by right clicking, layer, send backwards. So now it's at the back of the pants. So we rotate it how we want it to be. So now we have our legs, right? So let's make the boots. So you come here, we get this rectangle. Then we resize them. See, we have a lot of resizing to do. We have a lot of resizing to do and changing of colors to what we want them to be. And then just make sure it's placed very well, because I think that's the beauty of it. So now we have this. So we do Control D to duplicate this, and then basically we just move it here and also rotate it to this side and place it. Right? So now we have this. So now let's put the down part of the boots. So we come here, we get our triangle, right? And we basically bring it here, change the color to red, and then we rotate it like this. We scale it down a bit, right? And then move here, and then put it like this. So now we have our boots. So let's make the second boot. Just do Control D to duplicate this, and then basically we just rotate it to the other side, and then we put it like this, and voila, we have our two boots, right? So now the next thing is to put the cape. So for the cape, we come to shape and we get this shape right here. Then we scale it. So this is where we want it to be, right? So what do? We right click, layer, and then send to the back, right? So it should be at the back. So now it's at the back, and then we change the color to red. So now we have this, right? We have this. Let's scale it a bit. So now that we have this, right, the next thing for us to do is the cape here is just looking so straight. So in order to give it that, wave line, right, that we have in the picture, why don't we come to tools, come to shape, and then get this shape, get a shape that looks like a cloud. Yeah, you can basically just call it a cloud. So this is the shape, and then we scale it like this, right? So we change the color to red, and then we scale it down a bit because it's too much. I think this is nice. So that, what do we do again? We do right click, layer, send to the back. And then now we have the wave look. Yet you can still bring it out a bit like this, and then voila, this is what we have. Now we have gotten our cape, And then the next thing to do, I don't know if you guys can see what I am seeing, but then I can see this blue line here, this leg. So let's send it to the back. Not like send it to the back, but then let's just send it backward. So we just do send backward, right? So that is not that visible. Layer, send backward. So now we have this, right? So now I have this. So let's get our Superman logo. So we come to elements here, and we search Superman logo. So anyone that you see that is have this this queen or king icon that they wrote pro, basically know that you can't use it, right? The only people that can use that is if you pay to use the app. If you pay to use Canva, then you can use it, right? So now see the one that we can use is Superman logo here, and then it doesn't have the pro icon. So we just get this here, which I've already resized for us, and then we'll place it here. So voila, now we have our Superman right here. So basically we just created a Superman cartoon, right, with just shapes. We just created all this now with just shapes. We did not use any other thing. Thank God I showed you guys the process. You guys were here with me, so you guys saw how we created this just using different types of shapes. So that's why we say that shapes are the building blocks of designs, right? With shapes you can basically do anything in designs, right? So now we have our Superman. So let's go back to our slides, right? Now that we have our Superman right here, the next thing for us to do is that since we have created a cartoon character using shapes, why don't we try making logo with shapes too? Let's try making logo, right, with shape. So this is my own logo that I created, which I'm still going to show you guys the process that I used to make this logo, right? So basically this is just a shape. This is another shape, a rectangle, a square. Then I used different type of a rectangle, right, to just make this logo right here, and then a text. So then look at the elements that I use to make my own logo, right? I have a rectangle, a square, a parallelogram, and a text. That was basically what I used to make this, right? So before we make the shapes, right, and we have understood the psychology behind logo design, right? So let's understand the reason why I used the shapes that I used and the text. So I used a square and a rectangle to show what it means. Example: creativity, strength, and growth. That's what the psychology behind the rectangle and the square shape. It means growth, it means strength and creativity. So that's what I wanted to show in my logo. And then I chose color. You understand? If you can remember the psychology behind color, purple represents calmness, creativity, right? Energy. That has to do with purple. I think it also has to do with something royal and other things, right? And then I picked this font because it is more fun, and then it looks professional and cool. So I wanted my logo to have this creativity, to show strength, to show growth, and then to show professionalism, right? So that was why I used the elements that I used for this logo. Now let's just get a rundown on the steps that I use in creating the Blessing Designs logo, right? So after showing guys the step, we'll go back to our practical to go and make this logo, right? So basically the step one is to go to your Canva and then create a new design. So after that, the next step is for us to add a light purple rectangle, which we can just get that by going to tools, shape, and then get a rectangle and change the color to any color that we want. So the next one is for us to go to tools, shape, and then get a square, right? Resize it and place it to what we want, and then change the color to white. And then the next step for us to do is to go to shape and choose a parallelogram shape, right? We change the color to this purple color that you are seeing, and then we duplicate it into 4 and place them the way you saw right here, right? So the next step for us to do, right, is to add a text which says Blessings Design, right? So after that, that's how we just made a logo like this. So now let's go and make this logo. So come with me. I will just add a new page right here, right? So now that we have our document, the next thing for us to do now is to come to shape and get the rectangle shape, right? So come to shape and get your rectangle here, and then we resize it to how we want it to be, right? So now we have this rectangle right here. So the next thing for me to do is for me to change the color to what I want. So I want this color. So why you can see these colors here are because I've already made the designs before, right, to show you guys what we'll be making. So that's why the colors are here. So basically anytime you use a color, it basically just comes here as your recent colors, right? So I don't have to go through the stress of coming here and then choosing the color that I want. So that's why the colors are already here for me. So the next step for us to do is to come to tools again, shape, and then get a square. So now our square is the same color with our rectangle, and that's not what we want. So we change the color to white, right? So now we have this. But then, okay, let's not resize it now until we are done making, or you can still resize it. Resize it like this. Make sure you are holding down the shift key. See what happens when I wasn't holding down the shift key. If you're not holding down the shift key, basically it can turn to a rectangle. Your square can turn to a rectangle. But then if I hold down my shift key, it turns to a square. See? So you hold down your shift key and then you resize. When you are resizing, that's for when you're resizing a square, right? So we just basically place it here. So we select all this and move it here. The reason why I'm moving it here is that so we have space where we make the logo, the other shape. So we come here and then we choose the parallelogram shape. So basically we just choose this, right? So before we resize, let's change the color to this. So now we have this. So now I resize it like this. I think we have gotten one. So let's do for the second one, right? So let's come to tools, come here, and then get this one, right? So the reason why I didn't duplicate, because if I duplicate those ones, the sites are not the. So let's resize this one basically to how we want it to be. Right? So this. So now that I finished resizing it, let's try placing them and see if so this is where the work is actually trying to get so now we have gotten one, right? So now let's move on to the third one. So let's just duplicate this, right, instead of getting another one. So you do Ctrl T, bring it right here, and then we do it like this, right? And then for this one, we can just make it like this, and then keep it here. So now I have this, right? So now we have this. So the next step is for us to put the one that is right here. So I think we should actually try and close this a bit, and then rotate it like this a bit. So move this up, yeah, and then so next one is for us to put the one that is right here. So let's get a rectangle for that one. So rotate it, right? Rotate it like this and scale it a little bit. So this is our logo right here, right? This is our logo. So the next step for us is to highlight this, all of them, select all of them, and then we scale it down a little bit, and then we place it right here. See, now we have our logo. So let's place this at the center. Now we have this right here. So the last step should be for us to add our text. So we click on text right here, then we add a text burst. Remember I told you guys that you can choose any text template that you want. Like, look at this are text. I just click on this right now, you see the text will be here, and basically the only thing that I need to do now is loading. That's why it's doing like this. Once it's done, you will see. And then it's taking time. But then what I'm just trying to tell you guys that there are so many tests that you can choose. You can choose this or this or this. Look, different types of template that are already made for you, where you can just get them, and then the only thing you need to do is just to click on it and put the name you want to get. But then the design will be like this, right? So okay, see how it looks like. So assuming I want to use this to write that blessings design, I'll just click on this particular one right now, this one that is up, right? And then just write blessing, right? Come down here and write design, and then we have this. So all I need to just do is just to scale this down, right? And then place it here. And I already have an already made test, a logo right here, but then this is not what I want to use. I'm going to show you guys how to use like test templates. So this is the test box that I added, right? So I'll scale it up, bring it right here, and then write blessing design. And I have this, so I can decide to scale this up a bit and then make sure it's at the center. Now I have this, so now we basically have a logo. So now we have the logo. See? So this is what we made right here, right? So now we just made a logo. So for your mini project, right, you guys are going to make your own logos. For me, I'm going to make a logo choosing any of the shapes that you like here. The shapes that are right here, you can use more than one logo. You can use 2, 3, 4, and then don't just design a logo because you want to design a logo, right? I want to see the psychology behind the color that you choose. I want to know the psychology behind the shapes, the font that you choose, right? So don't just design a logo. Sit down and think about how you want people to feel when they see the logo that you have made, right? So choose any shape that you like here and then use it and make your own logo. And then we'll discuss about your assignments in our next class. Thank you all, and then bye. See you guys in our next class.